gets open for three. Dagger!
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Well Beyond the Arc. I'm Manoli.
And I'm Montana.
And over the next hour or so, we will be talking NBA basketball with all of you, as always, specifically the NBA playoffs. Thanks for joining us, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or wherever you catch your podcasts. And before we get started, just housekeeping note as always, hit that like button on the bottom left hand of your screen. And if you haven't subscribed to the Yankee and the Brit Sports Network, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You get plenty of good sports content on here. I promise you that. You will enjoy it. Montana, how the hell are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. You know why I'm doing good? Because the Lakers are about to win it in 5 today. That's why I'm doing good.
Well, we're going to get more into that. And there's smoke. Smoke.
That's the whole reason I said that. But that's the whole reason I said that. I'm glad I caught that one before you asked that.
This is going to be a great show. Well, we're gonna hit on each of the remaining 4 playoff series. The conference semifinals are coming to a close. We will know who's going to be in each conference finals by this weekend, after Sunday at the latest, the NBA's Final Four. But before we get into series talk, let's talk about flopping. And there's been a little bit of talk about this. Flopping has been an issue in the NBA for years. The flop godfather himself, Vlade Divac, we have him to thank. We have flailers like Reggie Miller back in the day, or Bruce Bowens. We can go on. Today you have guys like Marcus Smart. But once again, flopping has been brought to the forefront. And I think it's a little bit of an excuse to be honest. But Steve Kerr, the Warriors coach, brought up the foul discrepancies in the Lakers-Warriors series that we'll talk about here in just a second. And he made an interesting comment about flopping, and he made an interesting suggestion about the NBA should adopt the FIBA rules when it comes to flopping and offensive fouls and things of that nature. Now, in the FIBA, and correct, I don't know this for 100% accuracy. I haven't watched an international FIBA game in a while with EuroLeague or anywhere else in the world. I don't think they have a charge circle, if I'm not mistaken. And they don't have the amount of flopping in the international game. Sure, there's flopping everywhere, thanks soccer. But what do you make, Montana, of Steve Kerr's comments of, number one, bringing up flopping now of all times, and should the NBA institute more of a FIBA type rule when it comes to flopping and offensive fouls?
You know, I think that Steve Kerr is one of the most well-spoken NBA coaches there is, and he's made a lot of really good points that some have been listened to, some have been not. But I think this one, overall, I agree with it. I think the timing of him saying it is interesting, you know, in the middle of the series, this and that. That doesn't matter. But the overall, what he is saying, I think there does need to be, that is something that needs to be addressed. There has to be some change, and the NBA has done a terrible job. Flopping has been something that has just gotten worse and worse. And it's crazy, as defense is getting worse, so is flopping. Make that make sense. As defense is getting less, these floppers are getting better. I mean, they must be taking acting classes or something, because some of these guys are just, it's ridiculous. So Steve Kerr, I agree with what he's saying. I think there has to be something done. But again, the timing of him saying it, to me, whatever, it is what it is. I think there's been a lot of flopping that's gone on and plagued the playoffs the last couple of seasons and just the last few seasons. So he's on point with what he's saying.
Yeah, I agree. I think Steve Kerr is one of those guys one of the coaches in the league that when you interview him, he always has something interesting to say in some of his interviews, whether it has to do something with the NBA, basketball in general, or just something outside the real world, right? Curious timing, and we'll talk about why more the foul discrepancies and things of that nature. King Cal, that's a great point. I was just about to go back to that, bringing back hand checking like they did in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, you can hand check in the backcourt, but once you come past half court, they'll start calling that, especially if you're backing somebody down the post. You can't get your hand, but for whatever reason, you can put a forearm in somebody's back as they're backing down. Not that people post up a lot today, but anyway, flopping is one of those things that, there's a fine line. It's kind of like load management, right? How do you solve the problem for load management? It's the same thing for flopping. The only thing is in FIBA, they don't call those flops as much. I think you can even get suspended. I think that's something the NBA has tried to institute, fining guys for flopping, which they really haven't enforced this year. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody getting suspended for flopping and things of that nature. But to me, I take it back to even the playgrounds and pickup games, right? I mean, I don't know, Montana. When's the last time you played in a hoops pickup game where you saw somebody taking a charge? I don't know.
Um,
In the pickup
I
games that I play in, I don't. First of all, if
I
you're
can't think. No.
thank you. If you're playing outside on the blacktop, you got to be a dumbass to take a charge, right?
Yeah, no. I can't think of a single pick. I can't think of an actual real game I've played where I've seen something like that.
Right. Look, it's within the rules. Guys are taking advantage of it, and they well, shit. If it's in the rule book and you can take advantage of taking charges and things like that or flopping, God bless you. But I think if there's a way to take that out of the game, and I think it's a cop out for defense. I think it's a cop out for guys that can't defend. It's a cop out for guys that have no shot up against guys that they can't handle. And thank you, Smoke. Needed the face taking a charge. 100% agree with that. Um, I think that you get rid of that stuff because it's a cop out for guys that can't defend, plain and simple, right? Flopping, it's one of those things. It's gamesmanship, right? Guys like Marcus Smart, even LeBron. LeBron uses it to his advantage. Sometimes, most of the time, he gets a call. Sometimes he doesn't. A lot of guys. He's not the only one, but I don't know. If you take it out of the game, I think it'll make a cleaner game. The rest of the world doesn't seem to have a problem with it, but again, the NBA does. But we'll see what happens there. Who would you put Montana? Biggest floppers. Your all flop team. It could be guys from the current NBA or all time. Give me 5 guys.
When I think of flopping, there's really only one guy that I think of that I can think of at the top of my head and that's LeBron. LeBron flops all the time. LeBron takes up all 5 of my spots. One of the things I hate about LeBron the most is the amount of times he flops. He has flopped since way before he was in LA. He had some really bad flops with the Heat, but he has flopped. I absolutely cannot stand LeBron's flopping. That is one of the things, his flopping and his crying. Those are the 2 things that go hand in hand. So he takes up all my spots. I know there's other guys. I can think of a few others, but I've got to give the all-time flop team to LeBron.
Wow. And he plays for Montana's Lakers, ladies and gentlemen. Jay, can you bring up King Cal's last comment? I thought that was really good, a real good suggestion. Do it like technical fouls. You get X amount called flops in a season. Listen. I think you try flopping. It's so egregious. It's something that's they can review. I mean, there's instant replay coaches challenges in the NBA. I think that's something that could be reviewable. I completely agree with that. Put it like the technicals. You start getting suspended. Maybe guys, you get guys suspended. Yes, LeBron is a hell of a GM. Smoke. Yes, I agree with that. My all flop team. I already mentioned a couple of guys. Vlade Divac, I just called him the flopping godfather. I mean, God bless him. It's the only way he had a shot against Shaq in the early 2000s, and Shaq still dominated him. So you got to put Divac there. Reggie Miller, Michael Jordan said being guarded or by Reggie Miller was like getting in a chicken fight with I don't know. I forgot what it was. I forgot where I was going with that point, but getting in a chicken fight basically. So we put Reggie Miller there. Definitely got to put LeBron there. I got to put Marcus Smart for some recency bias. And my 5th spot, and he's too good of a defender, but he used the rules to his advantage. I got to put Bruce Brown in there. That's my all-time flopping 5. I'm sure I'm missing guys. I can throw Dennis Rodman in there because he did his share of flopping back in the day too. But that's my all flop team. Reggie Miller did get that's why he's on my all flop team, Smoke. 100% agree with that. Now let's get back into the series by series here, and we'll talk about your Lakers against Smoke's Warriors here. Lakers are up 3-1, have a chance to close it out later on tonight on TNT. Montana, are the Lakers going to manage to close out and send the defending champs home, or is this series going to be extended?
Well, here's the thing. It depends on if AD shows up. If we get AD, I would say we more than likely have a great chance. Another thing we have to utilize, I do think Lonnie Walker deserves a little more. He had played great in the 4th. Let's get him out before the 4th. I don't think he should start. I saw people saying, let's start him. The starting lineup for the Lakers has worked. Keep that starting lineup. But I think that we need to give Lonnie Walker some more minutes on top of Anthony Davis showing up. The one game that the Warriors beat us, Anthony Davis did not have a good game. Anthony Davis played one of his least equal games on both sides of the ball. He's had great games offensively. He's had great, but it was like that was a nightmare. So if we have AD and AD plays like he should, and AD stays in and stays healthy, and we give Lonnie Walker a few more minutes. Oh, one more thing. LeBron needs to stop shooting threes. That is something that, I mean, he is one of the worst 3-point shooters in the playoffs right now. He is, I don't remember. I saw the statistic. He's shooting like 20 something percent. It really
I
not
think
great.
he was like 6 for 41 in the series going into either game 5 or game
He
4
needs to,
going
if
into
we have a
tonight.
lead, if we have a comfortable lead, that's fine. He can shoot, but he takes those shots at the worst time. So LeBron needs to shoot less threes. And yeah, that's a good one
Robert
too.
Ory,
That's
good
a
good
really good
shot. I
one.
forgot about Big
Maybe
Shot Bob, Big
he'll be
Shot
my
Flop.
sixth man. He'll be my sixth man. We got LeBron all 5, and then Robert Horry is my sixth man. But no,
There you
I
go.
gotta, Anthony Davis has to show up. LeBron has to be smart about his threes or not take any, and we've got to get Lonnie Walker more minutes. If we utilize all 3 of those and all 3 of those happen, I think we've got him. I think we take him in 5. I know we're back in Golden State, but I think the momentum we've built up is too much. This Warriors team does not look like a great Warriors team. They don't look. We've defended them. We've played really well, especially last game. Being down, coming back, exploding in the fourth. That was the game that impressed me more than the 30-point win, because that was a really good game where we did what we couldn't do most of the last 2 years, which was come back from being down. And we did that, and we came back and we won, and it was a good game. And the Warriors didn't play awful, but Klay Thompson had a pretty forgettable night. Klay Thompson is really inconsistent. Maybe he'll show up, but I think we've got it. I think we will take it in 5.
A lot of good points there. I think the hardest thing to do in the NBA playoffs is put a team away and eliminate a team, right? So, I'm sure the Warriors,
That is true. I agree with that.
4-time champs. That's a good point there, Smoke.
I do agree with that. I will say, even I agree with that 100%, honestly.
He just piggybacking on that point, I think that LeBron early in games does attack the basket, tries to make a point to get to the free throw line. Late in games, he'll settle for the outside shot or take a couple jab steps and hit a mid, even get in the post and do a turnaround fadeaway, right? Low percentage shot for him. He can hit it, and he's hit it many times, but you can get a better shot than that. What happened to driving to the bucket there? Yeah, nice light in Montana. Great lighting, by the way. As far as getting back to the Lakers, Warriors, I mean, a couple of these games have been pretty close. The Warriors did mount a little bit of a comeback to try to close the gap and try to get back in game 4. Couldn't pull that off. Or I think I might be thinking about game 3. All these days and games are mixing in my head here. But King Cal, that is an interesting conversation for another time. We can have a whole show on that, on who the all-around better player is, LeBron versus MJ. But there's always an X factor in every series. Lonnie Walker happened to be the unexpected bench hero for the Lakers in game 5. Who's it going to be? Or game 4, excuse me. Who's it going to be tonight? The Lakers, and again, giving credit to Rob Pelinka, I've done that the last 3-4 shows here. The Lakers can have somebody unexpected come and help LeBron, Anthony Davis, even D'Angelo Russell, right? It could be a Dennis Schroeder. It could be a Malik Beasley, but he's not going out with Scottie Pippen's mom. Now Michael Jordan's son's doing that. Anyway, it could be Rui Hachimura. I mean, the Lakers are that deep; they can have someone be that X factor. But I can't believe Austin Reeves is a starter. He's a starter now. He could be an X factor too, but Hillbilly Kobe is getting plenty of run and plenty of credit. I'm a big fan of Austin Reeves. Champs aren't going down easy, right? And they're at home tonight. Chase Center has got to be rocking. And the one thing you didn't mention as far as a key to the game, do we know who the officiating crew is tonight for Lakers Warriors? If Scott Foster is one of those 3 refs, it wouldn't shock me in the least. If the extender is part of that officiating crew, there's a good chance this series goes to at least 6.
That's a good.
I don't know who's officiating the series, but Scott Foster, I hate to say it, I can't stand his ass. The extender could be a factor in this series, but Steve Kerr's comments about flopping and things of that nature, there's been a lot of talk about the free throw discrepancy between the Lakers and the Warriors. It's not because of the different foul calls. It's because the Lakers attack the basket more and the Warriors are more of a jump shooting team. Sorry, Josh. I got to keep talking Scott Foster if there are good points. I'll try to warn you with earmuffs next time. The Lakers play old school ball, and they have an inside outside game, especially when Anthony Davis is aggressive in the post. The Warriors, or I'm sorry, the Lakers, no, the Warriors. Anthony Davis plays for the Lakers. The Warriors don't have anybody that can stop him. That can stop him, right? Kevon Looney, okay, but that's got to be barbecue chicken for Anthony Davis. Draymond Green, come on, that's got to be barbecue chicken for Anthony Davis too. So you got LeBron attacking the basket, getting teams in foul trouble, at least in the first half. Anthony Davis attacking the basket. The Warriors run a lot of pick and roll action and basically running a lot of misdirection to put up some shots and backdoor layups. You know, the kind of the Princeton, it's kind of a fusion between pick and roll offense up top to get an outside shot to get Steph Curry, Clay, and even Jordan Poole, Wiggins open, or you have the back cut that get those backdoor layups that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson usually get a few a game as well. So it's a completely different type of style of play. I don't know. I think the Lakers are just overpowering the Warriors at this point. But I'm not counting out the Warriors tonight. I think it goes to at least 6, and I think the Lakers close it out in 6 back in LA.
If history repeats itself like last round, it's very possible. I would say I don't know. For me, I truly think that this Lakers team has what it takes to close it out. But again, there's all the factors we've talked about, and the Warriors are the defending champs, and they're playing at home in front of a crowd who's seen them win there plenty of times in the last 6-10 years. So it's going to be a game. It's going to be a challenge. Winning in 5 is not going to be easy. Beating any team in 5 this season is not going to be easy at all. So I truly don't know. I don't know. I think it's possible. I think we can do it, and then we get plenty of rest. We get a nice little rest, and we definitely need that. Anthony Davis, LeBron, we could use a Game 5 win for that rest.
Well, and another key to the Warriors, they got to make more shots. They got to make more shots early and stop coming back from behind. They got to get out in front early and stay there, basically. So.
Yeah, they've not looked that great from 3. They've had some decent moments, but they've not looked that great, in my opinion, from 3, especially that last game.
Well, we'll see what happens tonight. Heading on to the other matchup in the Western Conference semifinals, it's the Denver Nuggets, the top-seeded Denver Nuggets against the 4th seed Phoenix Suns. Denver won last night's Game 5 to take a 3-2 series lead, going back to Phoenix for Game 6. Suns are on the brink of elimination in the conference semifinals for the second straight season. Montana, what'd you think of last night's game, and how do you see the rest of the series playing out so far?
I mean, I would say the Nuggets have that. The Nuggets, it's their game to lose at this point. It's their series to lose. The Suns are not that team. People talked about it. They said they might be, but they're just not that team. Despite whether it's been the injuries or just not having that long to gel, or maybe not having that complete roster around those stars that they need long term, they're not gonna get past the Nuggets. I will say this: the Nuggets are a really solid team, but I do not see the Nuggets making it past the Western Conference Finals. I really don't. I think they'll make it past the Suns, but I think whether they match up against the Lakers or the Warriors, they'll have some issues in the finals more than they've had, because the Suns, again, they're a great team, but I haven't really seen it. They haven't looked like that team that everyone said they were going to be. To me, at least, they've not looked like that. So I've got to get – I think it's the Nuggets to lose. It's the Nuggets have that momentum building up, and their Nuggets are a team that when they have that momentum, it's really hard to stop them. So I think that it's the Nuggets to win at this point, win or lose. They can't give the Suns any leeway, but I don't think they will. And I think next game they close it out.
Is there any more pressure on a team than to win and get to at least the finals this year than the Denver Nuggets? You got a 2-time defending MVP before Embiid won it this year, obviously. You have a top seed. You got Denver doesn't have any excuse. They have Jamal Murray back from injury. They have Michael Porter back. They have a deep bench, right? They're on the brink of making it to the Western Conference Finals. I agree. I do think it is Denver's to lose. Denver should win this series going forward. However, I do have to give credit to the Phoenix Suns. And there's going to be someone in the comments that disagrees with me, but that's fine. When Chris Paul went out after Game 2 with the groin injury, we haven't seen him since, and we have no idea if he's going to play in Game 6. I'd be shocked, but even if he does, how effective will he be? 38-year-old point guard with a strained groin. Heck, a 28-year-old point guard with a strained point guard or with a strained groin is going to have a hard time keeping up with a Jamal Murray or a Bruce Brown or the guy Contavious Caldwell Pope, whoever he's going to guard. But I got to give the Suns credit. They won games 3 and 4 at home without Chris Paul, and not in a very healthy way. They played a lot of ISO ball with Devin Booker, which give Devin Booker credit. The dude is balling. He is balling. But a lot of ISO ball between Booker and Durant. You expect those guys to score. You expect those guys to show up, and they, to their credit, they have. Monty Williams finally made an adjustment. It could be too little, too late, but he finally made an adjustment. I've been crying for him to play Terrence Ross, who they picked up in midseason. They have Landry Shamet, who basically won them the game in Game 4 with his outside shooting that came out of nowhere. They have TJ Warren, who is rustier than a 79 Olds Delta 88 right now. But after that, they really don't have much. Jock Landell, okay, and give you some minutes here and there, and he did give him the Suns minutes in Game 4. But the Suns didn't just roll over and get swept. The Suns didn't roll over and die. I do think the Suns have a shot to win Game 6. I think, again, like I said before, putting a team away and advancing is the hardest thing to do in the playoffs. Monty Williams did make good adjustments. I agree with that last night. But I do think the Phoenix Suns could win Game 6. I do expect Denver to take it in 7, though. And there's been some great comments. I am trying.
I want to see the KD comment again.
Which KD?
There we go. Hold on. There we go. That is the only reason that Steph had. That is the only reason the Warriors beat LeBron. There's no way they would have beat LeBron and the Cavs without Kevin Durant. That is the only reason your Warriors have those rings. That's why they're losing tonight. Seriously, that's why they're losing tonight.
I gotta agree. Kevin Durant didn't win anything with Golden State. You're right about that, Smoke. But I gotta agree with Montana. I don't think Curry gets one of those two, at least one of those 2 rings, without Durant. Durant definitely put him over the top.
They only had one before. They only had one before Kevin Durant. LeBron, and I mean they went 1-1. Come on now.
Smoke. I defend you most of the time, brother, but that one I got to side with Montana on. Well, I mean, another part of the series, Game 4. We got to go back to this. Game 4, I believe it was the second quarter. There was a loose ball down at I guess it was the Suns' end of the court. No, the Durant trade was not. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I would make the Durant trade a mistake. If you got a Kevin Durant very well might be overrated, but I don't think the trade was a mistake. If you have a chance to acquire Kevin Durant, who could still play even at his age, and
I think
he's a plug and play guy. He's a plug and play guy. I don't know.
I think it'll work long term. I think they'll get a team around him. I don't think it'll be the team I think that's why it's not working now, because this isn't the team that's going to win around him. But I think they'll build a team around KD and they'll have a little more success. I don't think it was a mistake. It's too early to say it was a mistake.
Let's get back to that in just a second. I think that's an interesting topic. There was a little bit of extracurricular activities in the second quarter of Game 4 when Nikola Jokic went to go get a loose ball in the crowd and went to go grab the ball and shoved a fan. Got a technical foul, but that's pretty much about it. Suns fan got thrown out for grabbing onto Jokic's arm. But it wasn't just any ordinary fan. It was the Suns owner, Matt Ishbia. And, there wasn't much made out of that after, we're waiting to see if Jokic was going to be suspended for Game 5. He was not. Jokic had a little playful moment with Ishbia before Game 5 yesterday, tossing him the ball in pregame warmups and then kind of give him a little dap. But Montana, real quick, NBA not suspending Jokic for Game 5. Was that the right move, or did he deserve a suspension?
I don't think he deserved a suspension. Personally, I don't know. To me, it didn't even really look like. To me, there's a little contact, but he didn't full on. I don't know. I just didn't think it was that. I didn't think it was that big of a deal to begin with. I didn't think it was that. I get that it was a big deal, especially since it's an owner and a star like Jokic. That's something you look at, but I didn't think it was a big deal to begin with, to be honest with you. Even if it was a regular, to me, it didn't look like it was all that serious. And maybe that's just maybe that's just me. I don't know. Maybe everyone else thinks it was a huge, big thing, but I just didn't think it was that big of a deal to begin with, in my opinion.
I'll say this. Go
The
ahead.
only reason it was because it was the owner. That was the only thing that kind of caught my eye. Other than that, actually seeing it and everything, I just didn't think it was that big.
There's a comment made about Ishbia playing as for Tom Izzo knowing what he was doing. I agree. That was a heck of a flop and a charge that Ishbia tried to take. To me, when I first saw it, I actually thought the opposite. I thought because it was the Suns owner that Jokic was going to get suspended. It wasn't a pretty moment. It wasn't that serious either. But I thought just because of prior precedents, I thought there was a shot that Jokic was suspended. Kudos to the NBA for not overreacting. I'm sure Suns fans were hoping that Jokic would be suspended, especially going back to, what was it, Josh, 2007, Amari Stoudemire and a bunch of those guys leaving the bench after Robert Horry clotheslined clothesline. We'll say it that way. Steve Nash into the scorer's table. Thank you, Tim Donaghy. But anyway, neither here nor there. Just wanted to touch up on that. We'll see how the Suns Nuggets series shapes up, but that one I believe resumes tomorrow night. Well, before we get into the Eastern Conference semifinals, we got to take care of something that we do every week here on Well Beyond the Arc, and it's the internet's favorite game show. It's another edition, of NBA Player Or. Each week, I give Montana 5 names of individuals, and he has to tell me whether or not that person is an NBA player or someone from another profession. Last week, we played a twist, and we had the roles reversed, and Montana put me on the hot seat and asked me about 5 names and whether or not they were NBA players or someone from another profession. So we're going to do that again. Montana holds all the cards, and I'm going to be the one sweating bullets up here. So we'll give you a little rundown of how the game is played, even if you've joined us week in and week out. That's pretty much how the game is played. 5 names. I got to tell Montana whether or not it's an NBA player or someone from another profession. If I happen to get the name, or basically the question, correct, you will hear this sound. Victory! Thank you, Johnny Drama. And if I blow it, you'll hear this sound. All right, I don't like to toot my own horn very often, but Montana, you had me a little nervous last week, but I did go 5 for 5. What do you got in store for me this week?
So it's been a little while since the NFL draft, but I was wondering, are you a big NFL draft fan? Do you watch it round 1 all the way through to round 6?
I watch round 1. I don't usually watch all the way through the end, round 7. I couldn't tell you who Mr. Irrelevant is this year.
Okay, well, if you don't watch up to round 6, that might be an issue because it's NBA player or 6th round NFL draft pick.
At least I feel like I got a better shot at narrowing it down than I did with American Idol last week. But maybe this one might be tougher. We'll see.
All right, the first name is Brandon Green.
Oh my. Jared Green. Take one. NFL. Victory!
He was the 6th round pick, defensive end in 2003 from Rice, selected by the Jacksonville Jaguars as the 175th pick.
And I never heard of him until about 5 seconds ago.
Fair enough. I didn't hear about him until I Googled him. The next name we are looking for is Lawrence Roberts.
Lawrence Roberts. Oh, man, that's tough. Oh, there's a Stanley Roberts. Oh, man. Lawrence Moten. Guess, NFL.
Did it catch my celebration on the screen? I thought I waited long enough. Whoops. Man, I didn't think I was going to get you. You just went through them last week without any hesitation. It feels good. Sorry, not to celebrate.
What 10-day contract did Lawrence Roberts sign?
Well, a little bit longer than that, but he only had a very, very short stint. He was drafted by the Seattle Supersonics in 2005, and he only played 2 seasons. He averaged 3.8 points per game, 4.8 rebounds per game, 0.6 assists per game, 0.7 steals, and a whopping 0.2 blocks per game in those 2 seasons. And then he had a very long career overseas, so he made it work, just not in the NBA.
I don't even know where that dude went to school.
Man, hey, there we go. But that was I thought. See, I
well
knew
done,
it.
sir. Well done. I got to give you credit. Well
I
done.
tried a little harder than last week. I didn't just throw the names on. I really made sure I picked the right ones. But here we go. Get that streak started again. You got it. Let's get
let's go. Let's go.
The third name is Charles Johnson.
I know there was an NFL wide receiver back in the day, Charles Johnson. There was a baseball player, Charles Johnson. I'm going to stick with NFL, see what happens. Ow.
Charles, see, this one might be a little bit unfair, but I don't think it is. Charles Johnson was drafted by the Golden State Warriors in 1971. He was
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Go ahead. 1971. Oh, that's great.
He was a two-time NBA champ. I thought you might know him. He was a two-time NBA champ, once with Golden State and once with Washington. He averaged 8.1 points per game, 2.5 rebounds per game, and 1.9 assists per game, and nothing else notable at all. But there we go.
1971. Wow. We have a saying in Greek that basically translates into, does his mother know who he is? Go on, let's go. Keep going. Well
Number
done.
4 is Quentin Lawrence. Quentin Lawrence.
I'm going to stick with NFL. I got to get one right one of these days.
Victory! Quentin Lawrence was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs in 2009 as the 175th pick in the NFL draft. There we go. Good. Starting that streak up again. And the final name is Sean Williams.
I'm going to go NBA. Complete guess.
Victory! He was drafted by now Brooklyn, but former New Jersey Nets in the 2007 draft. He had a short NBA career followed by a very long overseas career with a couple of overseas championships. In the NBA, he averaged 4.2 points per game, 3.4 rebounds per game, 0.3 assists, 1.2 blocks, and 0.3 steals.
Baller.
There we go. Hey, all right.
Yeah, that sounded for sure like someone that played for the Clippers in the 80s or 90s, but
oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was a good pick.
All right, 3 for 5. I still did better than Chuck and who he played for. We're good. All right, let's as Sammy Sosa smoke. I didn't do so good today. Sorry. As Sammy Sosa once said, let's keep it continue. Let's go on to the Eastern Conference, a game currently in progress between the, not your typical 8th seed, but the 8th seed Miami Heat against the 5th seed New York Knicks, your classic 90s NBA playoff matchup. Miami's up 3-1 in Madison Square Garden at the moment, trying to close it out here in Game 5. Montana, I thought this one would go 7. I probably are going to be wrong. Montana, how do you think this one's going to shape up?
If we're talking about, if I'm betting everything I own, which isn't that much, but everything I own on a Game 5 sealing up tonight, it's this one. I would bet everything I own on that, because the Miami is just a better team, even with their players in, even with the players that are out, because they have some key players out. Even with those key players out, they're a better team than the New York Knicks. I'm saying they close it out and they take that momentum, which is mainly from Jimmy Butler, the whole team, but that momentum is mainly Jimmy Butler when he's on that court. They take that and they take that into that Eastern Conference final, which I don't think anyone thought I didn't think I'd see them there, but they take that momentum and they take it right to the Eastern Conference final. So I think they close it out.
Yeah, thank you, Harvath McClendon video with the update with the Knicks up 3 at the half. Still a whole other half to go. I love watching Knick playoff games on TV when they're at Madison Square Garden, and I don't have a vesting interest in whoever wins, right? That is a raucous crowd. Selfishly, I want this to go 7. I want the Knicks to, I can't believe I'm saying this, I want the Knicks to win so I can hear a crazy Garden crowd. It just feels like vomit coming out of my mouth. But then again, I've never been a big fan of the Miami Heat, so I can't say I want them to win. So that's like acid reflux now. I got to give credit to Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, and the Miami Heat organization. Yeah, they got a couple studs in Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. They got a well past his prime Kevin Love. What about the rest of the guys on the roster? Kyle Lowry can still contribute. He's past his prime, former All-Star. Who else do they have? They have a bunch of guys that nobody wants, but the Miami Heat has managed to take these guys like a Gabe Vincent, who no one took a flyer on, a Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, who's been, bounced around the NBA until he got to the Miami Heat. And they've taken advantage of what they do well. They've adjusted to the current NBA game as far as being able to shoot from the outside. They've turned these below average guys into starters and serviceable defenders and buying into a scheme. Eric Spoelstra, when he was hired by the Miami Heat after Pat Riley resigned, I think it was something like 15 years ago. I wasn't sure if he was going to be a good coach. He is one of the best coaches in the NBA and maximizes his players' talents. And that's what they've done in this series. I mean, just in game 4 alone, off missed shots, guys like Caleb Martin are throwing their bodies around to go get offensive rebounds, hustle plays to get the Miami Heat second chance opportunities. And that's what won them the game. Second chance opportunities, scheme, Jimmy Butler's will to win. And over the course of the regular season, we talked about this many times, Montana. Miami didn't shoot the ball as well as they could. Now playoff time's here, and they are shooting to their capabilities, right? I agree. I think Miami does get it done tonight. They should get it done. The only reason that they wouldn't get it done is a complete letdown. Um, Tom Thibodeau is a solid coach. I think that, Spoelstra going back to a zone and the Knicks not being able to shoot their way through it is going to be a challenge. But I agree. I think Miami's going to close it out tonight. But kudos to them. I mean, what type of scenario do you see New York pulling it out and extending the series?
I can't see any scenario where that happens. I know that they're a talented team. The fact that we see that they did not have a very good season last season, to bounce back like they did and have a pretty solid season this year has been really cool to see. But I don't think they're a team that can go in the, I don't, yeah, they've got, I think, what, a 3-point lead. They can't hold. I think Miami's going to close it out. Miami just, pound for pound, even with those players out, they're just a better team than New York, in my opinion. They just outmatch them. Whether they have Jimmy Butler or not, they outmatch them, and having them just strengthens that team by 10. So I just think I can't see any scenario where New York pulls it out. I just think that second half, Miami's going to take it away and close this series out.
I think the only way New York can win is if they get some stops, start hustling, hustle to go get those 50-50 balls that have been plaguing him all series, especially last game, and shoot lights out, especially Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's been a bright spot. Julius Randle's been hot and cold. Our RJ Barrett's had a good game and inconsistent between good game, bad game. I like Isaiah Hartenstein, I think is how you pronounce it. His energy off the bench. Josh Hart is going to get paid this summer for his playoff run here. I really like him coming off the bench, but Smoke coming back to KD. I do
Hey,
think Miami does pull it out. Oh man. All right, let's go on to the last of the 4 conference semifinals, and that's the Philadelphia 76ers against the Boston Celtics. Philly's currently up 3-2 after a win last night in Boston, mind you. It looked like the other day, was it Sunday, where Boston was up 2-1, and there was that game was neck and neck in game 4, and it looked like Boston was going to pull it out to take a commanding 3-1 series lead. Instead, James Harden hits a floater to send it to overtime, then hits the go-ahead 3 to get series even 2-2 heading back to Boston, and Embiid and Harden balled out in game 5. So Philly's got a chance to close it out in Philly for game 6, I believe tomorrow or Friday. I don't remember which day, but they have a chance to close it out in Philly. From the Boston side of things, they are in the exact same spot they were in a year ago, down 3-2, going on the road to keep their season alive in game 6. Last year's against the Bucks. We're playing Philly now. Montana, how's the rest of the series shape up?
Here's what I'm going to say. Obviously, the 76ers had a really dominating game. They've came back. James Harden has been pretty good, but him and Embiid have been hot and cold. They've not really matched it up, and they've not really been able to turn it on at the same time. And I would not be surprised if they drop game 6. And then we're right back in Boston for game 7, and Boston's going to close it out in game 7. Yeah, 76ers beat them in Boston, but game 7 in Boston, if it gets pushed to game 7, that's it. But the Celtics are going to have that momentum, and they're going to show up and be that team that was arguably, in my opinion, better than the 76ers during the regular season. I would say that they were the more dominating team in a lot of ways. They were one of those. I truly think that this team is better. And I think the 76ers can't get past their struggles, and they're really, really, really hot and cold. James Harden is not always putting up, what was that, 44 points in game 4 or whatever. And he's not always putting up monster performances. You see some of Houston James, you don't see it that much. And Embiid, he's not been super consistent either. Yes, he went injury early on and all that, but he's not been playing MVP caliber basketball like I would have expected throughout the whole series. He's had moments throughout the whole series. I don't think you've seen that MVP caliber that you would expect to see from him. So I think Boston closes it out in 7. I think it goes to 7, and I think Boston wins. If it gets to 7, 76ers better bring their A game. They better hope that Embiid and Harden both show up on the same night, because if it goes to game 7 in Boston, that's a tough place to win. So I've got Boston taking it in 7.
I agree. I agree with you on this point. If Philly doesn't close it out in game 6, they're in trouble in Boston in game 7. Because I haven't seen anything from anybody on Philly's roster. Yeah, Joel Embiid will show up, but will he have the type of game that's going to be enough to put him over the top in game 7? James Harden's been too inconsistent, like you mentioned. And I want to make a correction. Last night, it was Embiid and Tyrese Maxey that balled out. Obviously, James Harden had an impact, but Maxey had about 30 or 33 points to help pace the 76ers. I don't understand. Yeah, there's a couple bounces. Every possession matters in the playoffs, and like I mentioned before, Boston could have been up 3-1 going into last night's game, and they weren't. Right, so deal with it. I don't understand how Boston is down. There's too much talent. There's too much depth. But the thing about the Boston Celtics is with the way that they play on both ends of the court, with their depth, with their main 2 guys in Jason Tatum, Jalen Green, they should not be down. Boston should win this series. They should be up right now. I can't stress that enough. They have great supporting pieces in veteran Al Horford, who's taking more of an outside game, but that's a tough guy to defend against, and a guy that plays some tough defense and rebounding, things of that nature. You got that young guy in Robert Williams coming off the bench to dispel him. Marcus Smart was a defensive player of the year last year. They add Malcolm Brogdon. These guys are playing well, but the reason why, even though I just said I don't understand why Boston's down, the only thing I can think of is in key moments, they made some questionable decisions and had some untimely turnovers. And they let teams stay in games, and they've let Philly stick around. And as you let Philly stick around, that's how you let teams beat you. Boston with the curse of Kyrie Irving. That's interesting. That's interesting. Maybe that sage that he was going around with, was it last year, the year before, might have something to do with it. I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to say that Philly closes it out in Philly tomorrow night. Am I confident in that pick? No. But I think that Philly has more to lose with blowing this opportunity with your MVP, with James Harden at the age that he is, because next year, James Harden's going to be another year older, right? All those guys on Philly are going to be another year older, and you don't know what's going to happen. You got to take advantage of the moment. This got to be Embiid's year, his MVP season, to lead him to the conference finals and then the NBA finals and maybe even the championship. I'm going to say, and I'm going out on a limb, Philly in 6.
And again, if Embiid and Harden both show up, then I have no problem being like, yeah, they can definitely close that out. But I really don't think they're both going to show up, because we have nothing to show for them both showing up really their whole time playing together. They've had decent games. They've had great games, but usually it's on different nights. They've had some nights where it's matched up, but honestly, the whole time Harden's been in Philly, I don't think they've ever really matched up as well as people would hope they would. In my personal opinion, I don't think you've seen that matchup that you may have expected to, or maybe some of the fans anticipated to see. So if they can match it up and at least both show up, then they very well could. I have Boston in 7 just because I don't think they'll show up in games. I don't think Philly will show up in game 6 as a whole team. And once you get to Boston, I think that's pretty much it, especially game 7. So it could go either way. I can see it going either way. I still have Boston 7, but if they both show up in 6, you never know.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Can we go back to, I think Smoke, you put the comment about if Philly loses, do they blow up the team?
Ooh,
Yeah, that's it. It's an interesting comment. And we got to remember Joel Embiid's playing on a bum knee too, and he's performing the way he has the last 3 games. Game 2 when he came back, not anywhere close to his MVP self. But the rest of the series, I think he's been playing pretty well. I think Embiid has another year on his contract and then is available for the super duper more money than half the countries in the world max extension. James Harden, I think, is on a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken, and could walk. There's rumors about him wanting to go back to Houston. Could be for the strip clubs. Could be because he loves Houston. Maybe he loves Houston because of strip clubs. Whatever. Could they blow the team up? I mean, they have limited options. Embiid's not going anywhere. I don't think the Philly brass is going to let him go anywhere. I think Embiid's going to put pressure on the front office to bring in guys, and I think the front office there in Philly has felt the pressure in shipping out Ben Simmons. Anything you get for Ben Simmons was a great trade at this point. But Harden and Embiid do play a decent 2-man game. I think they need to exploit that a little bit more, but also exploit it to the fact that you have a third option. You can swing the ball because the other 3 guys, like a Tobias Harris, who's a very talented player, is standing watching. Hell, pay me $33 million a year to stand in the corner and watch and try to play some defense. So yeah, if they lose the series, Harden could be gone. They could look for, and I don't know what Tobias Harris's contract status is, if he's under contract for 1 or 2 more years. They could look to trade Tobias Harris, and yeah, they could blow the whole thing up. I think there's going to be pressure on that Philly front office to surround Embiid with talent, a la what the Bucks did a couple years ago with Giannis Antetokounmpo. So to answer your question, the short answer is yes, and that's the reason why. And King Cal, I agree. James Harden's not the same guy in Houston. He's a few years older. He's got some injuries. He's got some mileage. He's not as quick anymore. He's not as explosive. I don't remember the last time I saw James Harden dunk, but he's still effective. And he did lead the NBA in assists, most of them to Joel Embiid, but we'll see. We'll see. Well, we got a few minutes left. The NBA did release their all NBA first, second, and third teams today. I don't know if we have time to go through all of our, whether or not we've agreed with all of them, but I will share, and I have them up on my screen here. The first team, and they did this as they always do it, by 2 guards, a center, and 2 forwards. I've been saying this for years, Smoke. He needs to be more aerodynamic. I'm with you. That's why I keep my whiskers nice and thin. For the NBA first team, led by MVP center Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers, followed by the forwards Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks, Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, and the guards on the first team, Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Oklahoma City Thunder, made the first team. We'll go through the second team and third team, and Montana will go back to the first to get that real quick. The second team led by Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets at the center spot. Your guards are Donovan Mitchell of the Cavs, Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors. Your forwards, Jimmy G. Buckets, Jimmy Butler, the G stands for Gets of the Miami Heat, Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics as your other forward spot. And then the third team, highlighted by a couple of Sacramento Kings. You haven't been able to say that for a long time. Domantas Sabonis takes the center spot. De'Aaron Fox is one of your guards, followed by Damian Lillard of the Portland Trailblazers. And your last 2 forwards on your All-NBA team here on the third team, Julius Randle of the Knicks and LeBron James of the Lakers. I don't know how much we can go through this, but let's just start with the first team, Montana. Antetokounmpo, Tatum, Embiid, Gilgeous-Alexander, and Doncic. What do you make of how the voters got the first team? Did they get it right, or is there somebody else that you'd want to switch out from those 5 guys?
Honestly, the only switch out, I like the first team. The first team to me makes sense. These are all, except for, Shai, these are all MVP front runners throughout the season. Giannis was up there. The only front runner that isn't on that team is Jokic. And of course, Jokic is in first team. I mean, Embiid is the MVP winner. Embiid is in that spot. Embiid deserves that to be on the first team. The one person I would switch, and again, we were gonna have one viewer that's gonna love this, is I would put Stephen Curry. I would flip Shy and Stephen Curry. Now I'd keep them. I'd keep that the same. Other than that, but I would put Curry up in that. So I'd take Curry, and I'd flip that around if I was flipping anything around.
I can't disagree with that. I don't have a problem with the first team how it is. I also wouldn't have a problem if Steph Curry was on the first team. I think the reason maybe voters would put him on the second team was because of games missed to injury. I don't know, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a hell of a season, and Oklahoma City doesn't even sniff the plan without him averaging. Who had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander averaging over 30 points a game this season? So congrats to him. Nikola Jokic, like you said, the only reason he's not on the first team is there's only one center spot, and the MVP got it there, and this year was Embiid. No other problems for me on the first team. So let's go to the second team. Again, it's Jokic, Donovan Mitchell, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Jaylen Brown. Any issues with the second team in your eyes?
Honestly, again, I think this is usually I sit there and I have some questions, but for the second team, I'm not a big I'm not really against the second team. The one thing I would say, and I don't want to sound like too big of a Lakers fan, but I would possibly now again, LeBron did miss some of the season with injury, but
Which
because he
probably is a
broke
part of this.
yeah, because he broke the all-time scoring record and just his play when he was on the court, I would maybe have him on my second team. Again, I'm not a huge LeBron guy, just LeBron. I'm a Lakers guy, but the way LeBron played, it kept us in the mix the whole season. It kept us there the whole season. It just took that team around him to get us all the way. So I think LeBron really prefer. Now, again, LeBron did miss some time with injury, and you can make that argument. You could make several arguments against him being second team, but that's the one person that I would maybe move up and shift someone down is LeBron. I would say I have LeBron on my second team. That's my only change. Other than that, I mean, Jokic, of course, I would say he was definitely up there. He was second for MVP. I'm pretty sure he was right there. So Jokic is right. I mean, he would be first if he would have won. If it would have been flipped, he would have been first. So perfect. Other than maybe LeBron, that's the only change I have.
Okay. I don't have an issue with the second team per se. I have a couple names that have been left off altogether of all three teams that we should probably talk about, but no issues for me on the second team. Let's go quickly. The third team, centers Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, Dame Time, Julius Randle, and LeBron. Any issues there?
Well, I would say this, not really an issue, but a player that I could see making it on there is Ja Morant. I can see there being an argument made for him deserving to be on that list. But that's really my only change. We haven't seen Sacramento players on for a minute, but I would say they were deserving of being in the mix. There's some players that, like you mentioned, were left out altogether. But I would say my only biggest change and my only biggest maybe flip completely would be I would maybe put Ja on there and Dame Lillard, great player, finds his name on one of the lists usually. One of the best guards in the league right now, but I would maybe switch that out and I would maybe put Ja in and flip that around just because of how the season went as a whole for Ja and that Grizzlies team.
Yeah, of everybody, look, Dame was averaging over 30 points a game. I think that's the most guys in the NBA averaging over 30 points a game this season. I think it was something like somewhere between 5 and 7 guys, which is ridiculous. Dame Lillard is the only player on a team selected to an All NBA team whose team didn't really even sniff the play-in. Everybody else on here, well, at least Luka Doncic of the Mavericks, they were in the
They were there.
play-in. They were there, but outside of that, Doncic and Lillard are the only two guys, whose teams didn't at least make the play-in game. There's a couple guys I'm curious to see how the voting went for them and how close they were to making an All NBA team. Ja Morant is one of them, right? He did miss a little bit of time with injury, and then that midseason suspension. I can't listen. I know the dude's the best rapper in the NBA. Can't speak to that, so I'll trust you on that. Couple guys I was curious to see where they fall in the votes. Lauri Markkanen, league's most improved player. Probably got close, I would think. Brunson of the Knicks, I thought, had a hell of a year. Probably the best free agent acquisition the Knicks have had in 30 years. out there, not named Amari Stoudemire, but I think Brunson's had more of an impact. There's guy, Anthony Davis. I know he missed a lot of time to injury, and I know this is a regular season award, and I don't have the games played and all that. I'll see how many games he played compared to LeBron, but I thought Anthony Davis, especially in the second half of the season, should have gotten more consideration. And before he went down in, I think it was December and January, sometime around there with that initial injury, we were talking about him as a potential MVP candidate. So I am surprised not to see Anthony Davis on this list. You can make arguments for other guys. I mean, Devin Booker, he also missed time to injury. Probably should have got consideration. It's probably, if there's an NBA All-4 team, I guarantee you it'd be of Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, Ja Morant, Lauri Markkanen, and I'm trying to think of a fifth guy. I'm really struggling finding a fifth guy, but I think for the most part, all NBA teams were okay. I don't know if you can think of anybody else who we're missing. And viewers out there, throw them in the comments real quick.
I mean, you know who should have been on the, I'm back to first team. Where was Dillon Brooks? Why wasn't he on the first team? Honestly, that's the only, you know what? I take everything I said away. Dillon Brooks, Pat Bev, where's he at? Come on, these are the guys.
Oh my gosh.
These are the guys. Where are we got to have to remake these lists. They're missing Pat Bev, they're missing Dillon Brooks, all the guys we want to see.
Draymond Green.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think that's a good that's a good sign.
All clown. First team All NBA clown list. There we go. They'd make those teams.
That's a sign we need to put a bow on this one. Well, listen, folks, coming to a close here on episode number 38. We appreciate you joining us, but this is not the only place where you can find our work. Montana, where can our listeners and viewers find you outside of Well Beyond the Arc?
Got a couple other shows. One is called Purple and Gold Zone. It's all thing Lakers. And after the Lakers win tonight, I'm making an episode on that. Or I guess if they lose, I'm still making an episode. But there will be a new Purple and Gold Zone out on YouTube tomorrow and also out on Spotify. You can find it at Purple and Gold Zone. And then I also have another show that is on a current break, but we're trying to get back up within the next few weeks. It's called The Connor and Heffernan Show. You can catch us on YouTube and on Spotify. All things sports. Got a lot of things to talk about, NHL, NBA, got some NFL news. So just check that out on YouTube at the Connor and Heffernan Show and on Spotify as well.
Montana, we forgot to add Rudy Gobert to the All-NBA teams.
Oh, man,
how do we forget him?
How could we? Man, we forget big names.
I'm gonna run 3 laps around our building here when I'm done here. Well, you can find my work on my blog website. Haven't posted many blogs lately, but I got a couple in the hopper that are going to be coming out here in the next couple weeks. That's the Sports Page blog. You can find it at thesportspageblog.com. Been pretty quiet for a while, but trust me, I got a couple of good ones in the hopper that are going to be coming out here in the next couple weeks, so you won't want to miss that. So listen, enjoy NBA playoffs every night while you have them. Once we get to the conference finals, you might get one game a night. You might get one game every other night. It's been a great playoff run so far. Enjoy, and we will see you next time. See ya.